Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a fun one. I got with me today Evan Knox with Caffeine Marketing. Welcome, Evan.
Hey, what's up, Lee? Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to learn about Caffeine Marketing. How are you serving folks?
How are we serving folks? Well, we make marketing profitable for small companies doing less than $25 million a year in annual revenue. We start with strategy and a story-first approach, and then ultimately design a marketing funnel and implement it for them that's going to be profitable.
What does a story-first approach mean?
So we are a StoryBrand certified guide. StoryBrand is a 7-part framework that basically uses the principles of story to engage customers into a story. And so we use that framework to create all of our marketing messaging for our clients.
And is it similar to like a story, like a myth, or a story like a fiction story? Like what does the framework of a story mean?
Yeah, so it uses the same 7 parts of story that most screenwriters use, and ultimately that begins with the hero. So defining who is the hero of the story. And most companies actually make themselves the hero of their marketing, but we believe that we should actually play the guide in this scenario. So you define the hero, who's actually your customer or your client, and you define what they want. And then secondly, we define what's the problem they're encountering. So like every good story, the problem is the thing that really sets the hook and actually gets you involved. So think of Jason Bourne, if he's trying to find, life is all good and well for him, and then all of a sudden a bullet goes through the window, or bad guys come rushing in the door. That's the problem. And then after the problem is the guide. So ultimately in the story, we try to create marketing where our customers, our clients, are actually the guide in the story. So they're the ones who are helping the hero win the day. Think Yoda for Luke or Skywalker, or Anakin Skywalker, I guess, not really Anakin, or Haymitch from the Hunger Games helping Katniss. The guide is the one who's already been there, and that's how we try to position our clients. And fast forwarding a little bit, you're basically also painting a picture of success and failure. So showing them what's at stake if they don't do business with you, and then also showing them what life looks like on the other side of working with you.
Now, how did you get into marketing as a profession? What got you here, and then why did you choose StoryBrand to partner with?
Yeah, so my marketing journey really began with my grandfather. So my grandfather owned a jewelry store here in the Atlanta area called Knox Jewelers, and I just grew up going to work with him on the weekend. And so I'd get there, and I think I was like 12 or 13 when he started to teach me about marketing. And I remember creating ads for the Atlanta Symphony, and him telling me what we should put on there, what we shouldn't put on there, and stuff like that. That was when I really began to fall in love with marketing. And then fast forward to about 3.5, 4 years ago, my dad had passed away, and my grandfather was thinking about retiring. And so I thought to myself, you know what? I can't help my dad, and I can't really help my grandfather grow their companies, but I can help other small business owners and entrepreneurs make marketing profitable.
And then how did you stumble upon StoryBrand?
Donald Miller had written a few books that I had already been familiar with, and that's the guy who created the 7-part framework. But for me, I think I was really looking for a great framework in order to craft our clients' messaging. I mean, there's a handful out there, but ultimately when I tried StoryBrand, it got the best results. So after trying the StoryBrand framework, I decided after about a year or two of using it to become a StoryBrand certified guide. So we basically go up to Nashville and get certified by his team to implement the framework for our clients.
And then are your clients primarily here in the Atlanta area, or do you have clients all over the place?
Yeah, definitely all over the place. We've worked with everybody from, here in the Atlanta area to all the way in Australia, but I would say most are U.S. based. Some in Florida, some in Texas, some in Colorado, and really all, where in today's day and age, you can really work with anybody across the world.
Now, during this pandemic that we're dealing with right now, do you have any advice for business owners in order to kind of keep their story top of mind?
Yeah, I think we all have to be aware that it's almost like Groundhog Day, and also there's a lot of noise out there. I feel like I couldn't even count the number of emails that I've gotten from companies that I haven't heard from in 3 years that are suddenly telling me how they're dealing with the pandemic, the COVID-19, how they're trying to work around that as a company. So I think right now there's a lot of noise, but I want to give a couple of examples of people that I think we've worked with that are doing this, like doing marketing well in the season. One comes to mind is a jewelry company that this season is hard for them because they are primarily a physical retail store. And so instead of going, oh my gosh, this is the worst, don't know what we're going to do here, they decided, hey, you know what, this might be a good time for us to actually invest in our marketing, not necessarily the actual direct conversion necessarily, so not running ads, but actually redoing their entire messaging framework and their website. And they're doing that because they have cash on hand and they have margin to do that. I've got other companies. One I'm a partner with is a fly fishing guide business here in the Georgia area. It's called Bowman Fly Fishing. And for us, it makes sense to turn off Facebook ads because right now we're not booking any trips because of the shelter in place. However, we can actually help our guides, so the guides that we have that guide trips for us or whatever, we can have them actually write blog content, which is going to set us up for success in the future. So it doesn't make sense for either of those necessarily in this moment in time to actually spend money on advertising, but there's other marketing activities that we can do. And then the third one is another business I'm a partner in, is basically a window film company. So, we sell window films that go on residential and commercial windows that could be shade, decorative, whichever. And right now we're getting a incredibly high return on investment for two reasons. One, because people are actually at their house and they're noticing their windows and want to change it up. And then the other one is that there are a lot of people who are not spending money on Facebook ads right now. So they're exceptionally cheap. The cost per impression is much lower right now because a lot of businesses, it doesn't make sense for them to advertise. So for them, or for really us, it's an awesome time to spend even more money on Facebook ads.
Now, when you're dealing with clients, are you seeing some kind of common mistakes that smaller businesses make that you're like, oh, here we go again? This is just like, why do they do this?
Yeah. Entrepreneurs and business owners are famous for just throwing things at the wall and hoping something will stick. And aside from just trying to, like I said before, be the hero of their own marketing and talk about how awesome they are, I think the first mistake that most make is basically playing the hero of their own story. We really need to position ourselves as the guide in order for people to see us as somebody that they want to do business with. But the second thing is measuring conversions. And so, like I said, a lot of people just throw stuff on the wall and hope something sticks. They hear, oh, Facebook ads are great right now, or YouTube or billboards or whatever it may be. They hear something that they're hoping is like a hot stock tip as far as advertising goes. And that's ultimately not going to help them be successful if they're not measuring conversions. So I think that if you don't have a way to track from beginning to end if your marketing is effective, I think it's really hard to tell whether or not you should keep investing in it.
And then how do you define effective? Is it always go back to kind of, we call it here, green dollar ROI, or could it be just impressions or, downloads, or, they downloaded my white paper or my, ebook?
I think it really depends on the company. If you're a small business owner doing less than $25 million a year, I really think it's important to measure that direct return on investment. And, mainly because you've got a finite number of marketing dollars. You've not maxed out every single channel. And so it's really important to be really savvy with your marketing budget and make sure that you're getting the most of it. So for those, I would say it's really the bottom line. How does this affect your bottom line? And you can measure that a number of different ways. Even if you're not a online e-commerce store, you could probably measure the number of leads that, actually, I know you can. You can measure the number of leads that you're getting through your website or the number of calls you're getting through your ads. And so measuring that and then measuring what conversion rate do you have on those leads. So once you know that, you can ultimately determine how much is advertising costing us and then how much is it making us, and then make a intelligent decision from there. If you're a Coca-Cola or some other larger brand out there, really you've maxed out. At some point, you're going to really max out you're spending on one platform and then want to move to another one. So at that point, it's really a game of just staying top of mind. So McDonald's is another great example. Everybody's aware McDonald's exists, but they might have billboards or some other paid ads just to remain top of mind for other people. And impressions is probably the metric that they're looking at.
Now, for you at Caffeine, do you have a sweet spot on type of customer? You mentioned under 25 million, but is it B2B, B2C, e-commerce, dentists? Like, do you have a specialty?
No, we have, really it's that our approach makes us unique in that we try to only work with companies that we know our marketing is going to be profitable for. So in our first intake meeting, we'll get to know the company, obviously some of their goals and what they're looking for, but then we'll get into the nitty gritty really of, is this going to be profitable for you? Because based off our experience, we have a general idea of what a cost per acquisition might be for them. And so if the margin's not there in their products or services, then we ultimately won't work with them. So really it's small business owners doing less than that $25 million a year that we know that their market is going to be profitable. But I will say e-commerce is the easiest because it's the easiest to track that direct return on investment for.
Now, is there kind of a size of a budget that is a minimum that a company has to spend in order to even track results? Or is this something that at any budget you should be able to see some results?
I would say if you're doing Facebook ads and let's go backwards. So the things that we're looking for is the margin that you have in your products or services. And if you don't know that exactly, an easy way to calculate that is to do your top line revenue minus all of your expenses, so your net, and then divide your net by the number of customers that you have. That will give you a really, really rough idea of how much you can afford as far as a cost per acquisition goes. And so once you know that metric, you can ultimately then decide how much you want to spend on advertising as a minimum. I would suggest spending per month, at least to trial whatever marketing project you're doing, is spending 10 times whatever you can afford as a cost per acquisition. So let's say you can afford $1,000, like we said, in margin per customer. So spending 10 times that, because that's going to give you some data to understand whether or not it's profitable for you. And then as far as how small can you get, really you can spend $1 a day. Some campaigns we're doing as little as $10 a day, and as far as retargeting campaigns go, and we're seeing like a 35 times return on ad spend for those.
So now, for you, how quickly does it take for a customer to see results?
The great thing about doing all of this digitally is that often it can be within the first week, especially if they have an existing business that's already profitable, they're already making money. It's really easy to directly track that and see that return on investment within a week or two, really. Some companies, for example, one that I was just talking with today is a client of ours. They are really successful on Amazon and Wayfair, and they also like white label some of their products for Target and stuff like that. But they didn't have their own brand. And so while they might be a multi-million-dollar company, they didn't actually have a B2C version of their company. And so we helped them come along and create that. And so we took their old outdated website, refreshed it, been working with them. And that process has taken about a month and a half, 2 months. And we're just now breaking even. However, that's with a really low ad spend. So what we're thinking now is that we can scale this up. And so we've just doubled the budget since we're already seeing, really, it's kind of like I was telling my wife, it's like a money microwave now for them. So like every $1,000 that we're putting in, we're grossing $4,500 and then eventually netting back after the margin they have and then the ads, somewhere around $1,700. So it's like a pretty magical machine when you can just input money like that and make more back.
Now, how do you help the client choose the appropriate channel to be marketing on?
It depends on the margin they have in their product. Facebook ads is generally the easiest way to start, unless we're in the B2B space. The B2B space is a little bit trickier sometimes, but it also has unique advantages. So in the B2B space, a contract might be worth, $1 million or $500,000. So you can afford to do something like LinkedIn advertising, which is sometimes 7 to 10 times more expensive to advertise on than Facebook, because you've got the margin there in your products or services, and the targeting is there that we need. So Facebook has really great targeting. However, it doesn't have the same business targeting necessarily. So you can't get as specific on roles, how long they've been in their role, number of connections, all of that stuff, which is pretty important in the B2B advertising space. That might make LinkedIn a better starting point, but Facebook and Google Ads are generally a good advertising starting point. But we really like to make sure that the entire funnel is working first before we just start throwing money into advertising.
And that's the beginning. You kind of create a funnel for each customer so they understand how to move their prospect through that funnel.
Yeah. And if you think of marketing as these, and I'm sure you're already aware, Lee, but if you think of them as brand awareness, consideration, and conversion, and brand awareness just simply being the point at which somebody becomes aware of your company or your brand. Consideration is the point where they're aware of you, but they may have forgotten about you, or they're not quite ready to buy, they're unsure to buy. And then finally, conversion is the point that we're all looking for, which is sales. So if you think of it in that terms, you can actually design the funnel around that based off what is already working. So if they're already getting referrals, that means that people are hearing about them for the brand awareness part as a referral. And so how can we make that better? So if that's already working, let's just optimize everything below it first before we start doing advertising, and let's create a lead gen on their website and then a 6-part follow-up email series in order to educate those people to turn them from subscribers into customers.
Now, using the story brand principles, do you create a story for each kind of segment of the funnel?
Maybe not necessarily each segment of the funnel, but you can do it for each product or service that you have. So let's say, somebody's got 3 divisions in their company. One is a B2B side, one's a B2C side. I'm oversimplifying here, but the products are unique, or the services are unique for each person, and the customer is different. And the results that they're going to experience, both positive and negative, might be different. So at that point, if it's a division of services or products, that's probably where it makes sense to make all of these subscripts.
And then when you're working with them, is this something that you help them with to kind of build this out, or do you do this on their behalf? Is your service kind of an ongoing thing, or is it let me fix the problem and then you wish them luck and then you go your separate ways?
Yeah, so we probably 90% of our clients are done for you services. So we're actually going in and creating a website for them. We're creating the Facebook ads. We're creating the lead gen PDF, the email series, all that stuff. Now, the project actually depends on whether it's retainer or a project work. So like a website is not necessarily something that we have to continue ongoing. So that might be a 50% down, 50% at the end of the project. And then after that, Facebook ads might be like a month-to-month thing.
And then, so then they would pay you a fee, and then they would pay Facebook whatever their budget is?
Yep, and we separate this too, just because really we like the transparency. I personally don't feel good when there's other marketing agencies out there that will, hey, pay us $5,000 and trust us to spend $2,000 of it on Facebook ads. Like, I'd just rather set the client up to pay Facebook directly.
Cool. So if somebody wanted to learn more, have more substantive conversation about you and Caffeine, is there a website?
There is, yeah. So if you are a small business owner, entrepreneur out there, and you want to make marketing profitable, you can just go to caffeine.marketing. There's no .com, just caffeine.marketing. And I've got a free guide on there, how to build a winning sales funnel, and it'll go through all of the different steps that you actually need to do in order to create a sales funnel.
Good stuff. Well, Evan, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, Lee, thanks for having me.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.